All these years, old Fred's been missing this headlight ring. And a YouTube friend, a fine feller, bless his heart, he sent me 2 rings in hopes that one of them would fit. And I don't know, I think they're both too, yeah, I'm afraid they're both too little. Yeah, they might be too little. I've got one that, come on, get in there. You know, I might be able to open that up enough to, no, I don't know. I might play around with that. I might be able to open that up enough to get it on there. It's not going to fit really like it should. It should be a bigger ring that goes up around this piece here. It kind of fits on the inside of it. But if I got it here, I spotted one yesterday. I don't know where this one came from. This one seems to be maybe a little bigger. Get you over here where you can. Well, let me compare it. Yeah, this one seems to be a little bit bigger, maybe. Oh. Get that in the groove. There's a little. Yeah, you know what? I think I'm gonna. Why don't that go in there? You dirty bugger. I'm gonna have to get a hammer. A big hammer. Drive that in there. No, I'm gonna have to get in there, but what I want to do first is let's get some steel wool and clean that up, and the best I can. It's pretty beat up, but BTN. That's what my friend Victor and I always say. We always say BTN, you know, better than nothing. So we got, yeah, we got something to look forward to there. Here's a little block of trees we grafted, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, I suppose. They were something called an L-Star, and we grafted them to Cameo. And here's your graft, you can see some of the old grafting tape. Right there's where they were grafted. Anyway, now we're going to graft them over to Gala. We're going to graft on the graft. And that piece between the rootstock and the graft is called an interstem. And right over here is where I got the blue diamond. And right up there is that old Ford truck that I videoed a while back. Alright, I'm going to get on the business end of that chainsaw. Well, I had 3 of these. I kind of polished this one up with a little steel wool. It helped it a little bit, but out of all 3 of them, they're all too small. This one also. Just not quite big enough. So, old Freddy, you're just gonna have to live with the pin just like you was, but we love you anyway. Okay, see if I can reach in here and get this lid off. Oh yeah, that was easy enough. It's kind of nice to have 2 people when you're pumping brakes on this old thing. You know, I got one of them suction deals where I can go back there and siphon the fluid through the system. But I'm not going to mess with that. This thing will usually pump up, and if you get brakes with a couple of pumps, that's good enough for what we're doing up here on this old mountain, you know. We'll stop when we get to the bottom. I'm just sure of it. We'll have was just the correct amount. Exactly the correct amount. And get it threaded. There we go. And also, young fellers, where the starter is on this thing is right here. That's the starter. Some of the younger guys might not know that. Old rig like this, old pickup this era is kind of what I cut my teeth on. My dad always had an old 49, 50 Chevy, it seemed like, or GMC. For years and years, that's what he had. And he had several of them. He'd trade them around, but always wind up with an old rig like this. It wasn't until, oh man, it wasn't until about 1969 or 70 that he finally traded out of this era of truck and got himself a, I believe it was a 64 Chevy, half-ton, long box. And even at that time, we marveled at how thin the metal was on that compared to these old guys. You know, this stuff, you could build a tank out of one of these. They got some metal in them, boy. But that's kind of when things had started to change, and they started to put some braces and brackets in there and to hold that thin metal. And they looked good, but they weren't near as tough as these old guys. Boy, you could knock down gates with these guys and just keep on going. Not even put a dent in it. Alright, I'm going to pump on that for a little bit. And see, does anything happen? Oh, yeah. Sometimes it'll pump up. Sometimes it won't. Building up pressure. Yeah, I bet you. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to start off the mountain with it like that. All right, I'm going to take a look at that and see if we pumped any fluid into the lines, into the system. Getting my nice black shirt kind of dusty here on old Fred. Oh yeah, we need some fluid. We got it foamed up pretty good. We filled it up with air. Oh, don't want that in there. That's my it's part of my lid, the inside of my lid. Where'd it go? Yeah, it looks like I've got fluid going all over the ground. I don't think I overfilled it that bad, but I might have. Okay. Get her full again. I don't know if we're going to be successful or not. I need to get it in the shop, and I've got a master cylinder that I ordered for it about 20 years ago. I never put it on. Ain't that something? That's about procrastination to the extreme, isn't it? Man. Look at there. Look at there. Walk right up to the top. Well, heck, old fuzzy, yeah. I can't get my vent open. I'll burn up in there. Alright, let's clean these windshields, wipe them off a little bit, and go for a little ride. What do you think? Wish I could find my GoPro. Looks so organized, I can't find it either. Okay, it makes absolutely no sense financially to bring a crew out to do a little job like this. Normally I would just get one helper and come out myself and do this job, but we decided to just bring everybody out and get it knocked out in the interest of getting Victor on the road. He is anxious to get back to his family in Zacatecas, so we're trying to get everything wrapped up today. This is the shortest season that I've had grafting since back in the early 80s when I first started, and you know, that may be a blessing in disguise. Financially it's a disaster, but the other side of that is we don't have to be out among people anymore, and we've stayed pretty isolated anyway. But when this job's done, I've got one more, and that'll be done this afternoon. I'm going to go home and lock my gate and stay up on my mountain where I belong. You know, I spend a lot of time doing that anyway, so this won't be any big change for me. You know, I've got a nice warm shop to work in and lots of projects and plenty of toilet paper, so we're good to go. I was talking with the owner here and trying to remember when we grafted these trees, and I think earlier I said maybe 14 years ago, and he's a kid who was in the 90s. I said, well, I know your mom was still around. He goes, yeah, my dad was still alive too. But the reason I remember his mom, well, she came out and she told me a story. She must have been, I don't know, maybe in her 80s at the time, but she came out and told me the story about when she was a little girl. She was watching her dad graft apples, and he explained to her what was going on, what he was doing, and she decided to go get some wood from a pine tree and ask him if he could graft on that wood onto the apples and make pineapples. So that is just a wonderful story. I've always remembered that. Every time I come out here, I think about that. But anyway, yeah, these I thought it was like 15 years ago or so, and no, he said it's more like 20 or 25 years ago we did this. It's been 5 or 6 minutes. Let's go see if we got any brakes left and see if this thing will start. Been sitting out here all night, and you know, I haven't dumped any gas in the carburetor or anything. So, and the choke's not hooked up. Oh, Riley's. We don't know if the pump works. We don't know if pumping it does any good. I know the choke's not hooked up, so we can't choke it. Okay, that sounds good. Fuel pump settled down pretty quick. Well, that was tough, wasn't it? I'm gonna give it just a little choke out there on the automatic. That's such a smooth running motor. There's no lift or kick, nothing, you know. It's just tight, sweet. What we're doing here is cutting up this sign wood, and they start out as suckers, water sprouts, sucker shoots, whatever you want to call them. It's 1 year growth on the trees like that up there, and you collect those of the desired variety, and we cut them up into what's called a sign length, SCION, and when the graft is made, that'll leave 3 buds exposed, so we're putting on 8. So we have 24 shoots to choose from to train out into the right direction to make a nice balanced tree, and he'll grow his primary scaffolds. Looks like he takes about 3, sometimes 4. And what we're doing here is bark grafting. I have other videos of other techniques, but this is a bark graft. And what we do on these larger trees, I'll show you up here. Victor just makes a slice up the bark and pries it open and slips the sign underneath the bark. And when he cuts the side off of that sign, that exposes the cambium layer. And then when he lays it up on that wood, he's laying it on the cambium. And those cells in the sign, from the stored carbohydrates in the sign, it will produce what's called callousing cells, or healing cells, or callousing tissue. And those are just undifferentiated cells, but they will become, it will differentiate into vascular cells, vascular veins, so the nutrients can come up from the roots, and it'll make those veins so that it can feed into the sign and force the bud, and then the bud becomes the tree. Boy, Jorge's wearing some nice gloves today. Beautiful gloves. Look at those gloves. Mira, Jorge, Jorge.
Match with the bucket.
Oh, uh-huh. Oh, muy bonito. Amarillo. Guantes amarillo. Careful, Victor. Don't fall down. Don't hurt yourself, man, please. Not slipping? Sometimes? Sometimes, yeah. Get those evenly spaced now. It's a little bit early in the season, and so the bark's not slipping real easily. Sometimes you can rub on the bark a little bit. Sometimes you pound it with the knife handle a little bit, but Victor's not going to mess up his new knife handle. You're not going to beat on the tree with that knife, are you?
No.
No. That's his very special knife, made by our friend in New Zealand, a grafter friend. I was going to talk about the chainsaw I used this morning. My saw of choice this morning was my old 42 Special, my Husqvarna 42. My favorite is the 242 XP. But my 42 has also been ported, had some port work done on it, and it's a screamer. A friend in New Zealand I spoke of said his friends think he's nuts when he buys a brand new saw and then goes home and tears it down and starts doing port work on it. They don't understand that, but they think he's crazy. But you know, to be in this grafting business, you got to be a little nuts anyway. So and people who say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, well, they just don't get it. Okay, it's probably enough about this little job. I may go ahead and talk about some grafting in this video. This video will be down on views. I'll probably lose 10,000 views because of this subject matter. Die-hard hot rod guys don't want to hear anything about this grafting stuff, but some of you find it interesting. So I'm going to dedicate this one video to you guys, and then we'll get back to the hot rodding and rat rodding videos. Yeah, I got a few other techniques and a couple of other videos I'll refer to and show you where you can learn more about this if you choose to. People ask me, why do you graft? Well, we grafted these, and that was the hot variety at the time. We put on a Cameo. It was selling well. He made good money on these, and he said it was an excellent producing orchard. But the market just went away. They just get so that they're not popular. Something new's come along. People would much rather have a Honey Crisp than a Cosmic Crisp or Evercrisp than a Cameo or some other variety. So varieties come and go, and their popularity waxes and wanes, and that's what happened here. He just lost started to lose money on them. He's not getting enough return to cover the cost of growing them. So we come in to save the day. And we take this wood from the desired variety, which is Gala. And I don't know, he didn't recall which strain of Gala this is, but anyway, it's a popular apple. The Gala still has some merit. So we're going to put these grafts on, and in about 3 years you'll start producing Gala apples on these stumps instead of Cameo apples. And the advantage of grafting, that's the first thing, is to change to a more profitable variety. But also, when you've got this established root system, there's so much power in those roots that we can grow a tree within we could probably be 3 years ahead of planting a new tree and then waiting for it to come into production. So that's another advantage. And then probably if those things line up, then the next thing is the cost. To get an excavator in here and pull these stumps out, and then possibly have to fumigate the soil, and then the cost of a new tree. I don't know what an apple tree costs. I know a pair or cherries, $12-14, somewhere in there. I'm sure an apple tree is $8 or $9, and so you got the cost of a new tree. You got the cost of ripping out this orchard, and when you rip it out, you're also going to tear up your irrigation. You've got underground irrigation here. That's all going to get ripped out. That all has to be replaced at great expense. So there's the cost of the tree, and then there's the labor of planting the trees, putting in new trees, and then the time loss, the crop loss, waiting for them to produce. That comes into play, and that's a lot of money. But just replacing this orchard, to rip these out and plant new trees, I would expect you'd be at, I don't know, $20-25 a tree, and we can come in and do them for 8 or 10. So there's a great advantage to grafting. It has its place. And then sometimes I get called out to look at a job and make a recommendation, and if trees are too old and I just feel like they're not going to graft well, then I recommend Caterpillar, 12 tons to the acre. Apply Caterpillar, lots of it, and they push them out and start over. So here's some we did about, this is the little job I did. I think I don't know, there wasn't no, this was a few years back when we did these. These are about 1, 2, 3, these are about 4-year-old grafts, and you see that's a nice producing tree already. If it was newly planted tree, it would not have that much bearing surface. But we did a few rows over there, over next to the house a few years ago. Not very many trees. I think the bill was $400, and that's when I called him and said, if you'll give me that old blue Dodge truck, I'll pay your grafting bill. And he said, boy, that sounds like a deal. And they were just thrilled that I got that truck and got it on the road, and because they had bought that for their dad back in 1986 for a farm truck, and I took it out and showed it to them. The two brothers and the sister were out at harvest time, and I drove the truck out after I got it on the road, and they all gathered around like it was a long lost sibling, and they just loved what I'd done with it and loved seeing their dad's truck back on the road. So that was a happy ending. Okay, there's a little tab missing that idle screw sits down on. There's no doubt in my mind that old Weymouth can't make one for it. So I'm going to wipe that windshield off a little bit so I can see, and we're going a real long journey down to the gate and back. I have to pump the brakes from here till I get there. They'll be working by the time I get there. Out here this morning, he was talking about his neighbor, all excited about getting this wood because apple wood makes great firewood. Eric said, I don't burn apple wood, I don't burn firewood anymore. I can burn the propane. I said, I don't burn wood either. I had enough of that when I was growing up. Until I was 12 years old, I thought my name was Get Wood.
Get wood?
Get Wood. Yeah, I thought that was my name, man. I sure like this knife. I like the carbon steel. Steel has to be hard enough to hold an edge, but soft enough to sharpen. If it's too hard, it'll be brittle and then it chips out. And this is perfect. My pappy called that Granny Low or Grandma Low. All my neighbors called it compound low. I don't care what you call it. It's just slow. But it's great for hauling hay in the field, you know. You could you put it down in Grandma Low and get out and load a few bales, run up alongside of it, steer it a little once in a while, correct it a little, move it over this way a little, let her go, and then go load a few more bales. Just walk along beside it until you get to the next one, you know. Brings back memories. And to carry on with the tradition, my dad always seemed to have seems like on every one of them rigs, somewhere, to be missing a handle for the door, a window crank, and he always just had an old pair of vice grips on there. So we're just carrying on a family tradition. Got our bird nest up here, wash nest here. Everything seems to be in order. Yeah, you go down the aisle in the grocery store and the paper products, you know, the paper plates and the paper towels and the toilet paper and the napkins, and they're all gone, you know. No napkins, no paper towels. Can't buy a paper towel, but these shop towels are everywhere. Any auto parts store you go to, they got them stacked up everywhere. They got had a big sale on them at Coastal Farm and Ranch. You know, they had a big bundle of them out there. Nobody give that a thought. But you can't find any paper towels. Well, you know, if you got a chop saw, this ain't no problem, man. There you have it. Boy, it is an absolutely gorgeous day here in the eastern slope of the Cascade Range in the turnbuckle of the power belt of the Great Northwest. Guarantee. You know, some people don't get my sense of humor. Some people just don't have a sense of humor. That's all right. But anyway, about that toilet paper, just a joke. Don't be flushing that down into your septic system. Probably not a good idea. Just only use that in your outhouse, okay? Not inside. I addressed a couple of comments. You know, in that last video, there were several people said that's not a 216 engine, and you know what I had said was that I believe it would have started life as a 216 in 1950. I'm thinking that the pressurized oil system came with the 235 in about 1954. But I know what a 235 looks like. I cut my teeth on those old 216s and 235s, and yeah, I know the difference. But what I want to say about that was one guy commented and said to run the numbers on that block, it could be a 261, I think. I'll have to check. But anyway, there was a bigger one, and probably truck engines. So that would be kind of cool if it was. It don't matter, you know. I'll love old Fred just the same. And there was a comment about that skunk. Somebody said, why did you wake up that poor skunk? Well, first of all, skunks don't hibernate. And second of all, I didn't know what was in that barrel. When I picked it up, I didn't know there was anything in it. I was just going to dump it out and dump the dirt out. And then I heard some scratching inside. So I go, well, I'll take this a little further. I'll ride this one a little bit further. And you never know. You never know. Might get some good video footage out of it. But sure enough, yeah, there was a critter in there, but I didn't know what it was. Anyway, last fall or last summer, I had the sliding glass door open on the house, and I walked from the shop into the house late one night, been out burning the midnight oil, and walked up on the steps, just ready to step in the door, and this black and white thing ran out, and I thought it was Joshua at first glance, and in that little split second, it takes your brain to engage, or mine anyway. Mine takes a little longer than yours, but I realized that ain't Joshua. So yeah, they're just a nuisance around here. They're everywhere. And anyway, I don't know. I don't really want them around, you know, but they're here. So then there was one other comment. They said, "Do you sit on your voice?"
What the hell does that mean?
You know, Mr. Heavy Chevy saw me wearing this sweatshirt, and he said he thought it made me look younger. And I tend to believe he's right. It might even make me even more handsomer. As if. Okay, only one thing left to say. I appreciate you.